Okay, guys, welcome to Project 1. It's called Expressive Lines. So this project is going to be a really easy way to get into basically just making marks on a paper. There are two parts to it. So part 1, we're going to just do a doodle grid, which is what I'm going to show you in this video. Part 2 is more of a final project. We're going to call that the collage Zentangle. Doodling and Zentangle. Let's talk about that for a minute. Some of you have probably already heard of this. Doodling, I like to advocate for doodling. It's just the process of mindlessly drawing stuff. And I know that you've been doing it your whole life. I have. Especially when you're bored or at some kind of meeting and somebody's talking a lot. Doodling, believe it or not, does kind of activate your brain and keep it focused. So doodling while, people are talking or while you're in a meeting or even during a lesson, if you don't need to write down notes, doodling's a really good way to keep your brain engaged. And Zentangle's for like a fancy word that we use to describe intentional doodling that creates a design element. So I'm going to have these images available to you in the assignment pages, but just to show you. So this is the project I found online that inspired what our final project is going to look like, the Zentangle project. So that's kind of a good starting point. These are going to be available to you as well, and I use them all the time when I am doing Zentangle as ideas. So you're going to have a bunch of these to look at. I'm also going to show you how to make your own grid. And when I say grid, I mean these squares. I want you to do a sample grid as part 1 for this assignment. And I want you to create a variety of Zentangle or doodle patterns that you could possibly then use on your final project. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with just making the grid. Okay, so let's draw a grid. Honestly, this is flexible. If you want to do a different size grid, that's fine. Like if you want to make rectangles or whatever, but I'd really recommend that you get a ruler. I want to see some straight lines. Also, this piece of paper is 9 by 12. You may be working with a different size, but I'm going to make a 9 by 9 grid. And, if you have an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, it'd probably be an 8.5 by 11. 8.5 by an 8.5 grid. Anywho, so that's the easiest because then you can use this measurement just the way it is. And you can see mine's already 9. So what I have to do is basically bring this part, the vertical measurement, down to 9. And you can see my piece of paper is 12 inches. So I'm going to need to take a total of 3 inches off of that. So I'm going to split that 3 inches up into 2, so that's 1.5 inches. And basically I'm just going to make a straight line here and a straight line here. Now if you have trouble making straight lines, you could measure a 1.5 right here and you could connect the dots. But in general, when it's this close to the edge of the paper, I just kind of eyeball it, line the ruler up, try to make sure it's parallel with the edge, and draw a line. Same thing on the other side. Okay, now let's see, we've got 9 inches to work with. I want each of my squares to be about 1.5 inches. Okay, so anywho, I'm gonna make each of these measurements 1.5 inches because that works out really well with the 9 inches. You can see I'm just put my ruler up in here. Make sure it's lined up right here on the edge. Go 1.5 inches all the way across. Okay, and then, the end. Then, of course, we got to do it over here, too. Now, if you are using a different size paper and you got to use different measurements, and these little boxes don't come out the same size as mine, whatever, it doesn't matter. I would just stress to you that you want to keep it clean, straight lines, so it looks neat. Other than that, it doesn't really matter. Okay, got all my lines. This part seems pretty self-explanatory. Sometimes you'll find, though, that you're like, why are these lines so off? I end up eyeballing it a lot. Just kind of match it up with the line before. Okay. So this part, I'm going to go ahead and do this off camera. There's no point in filming this because I'm sure you guys know what I'm supposed to be doing here. You're going to make lines here. You're going to make lines here. And then we're going to have a grid. So I'll come back when I've got that grid ready. Okay, so now I have my grid drawn. And some of these little marks I made, they weren't that straight, so I fixed them on my own. Anywho, I also put my name here. I know that sounds dumb, but please, just put your name on it. Way before you finish it, just put your name on it, because you often forget. And then for various reasons, I end up not being able to identify it, so please. All right, additionally, you can use black to do these outlines. I would recommend it. In fact, this whole thing's going to have to be black. It's going to have to be Sharpie. Sharpie is the best. You're going to find, I'm sure if you guys don't already know, Sharpies are the best black marker in the world. All the other markers, like if you use a regular kid's marker, they tend to bleed, smudge. It's really super annoying. So there's 2 Sharpies that you're going to want. There's actually so many different kinds, but these are the 2 that you're going to need. This is the ultra fine point Sharpie, and this is the regular fine point Sharpie. Ultra fine point, obviously really, really small tip. This is my favorite pen in the world. And this one is the regular fine point. Now, what can you do if you don't have one of these right now? If you've got any kind of black ballpoint pen, that'd be a good place to start. But remember that for this, that'd be a good substitute for this. But they also smudge. So while you're working with it, especially if you're left-handed, it becomes a problem. Your hand tends to move on it like this. So warning on that, you know, work from the top down. Try not to smudge it. But these are what you really, really, really need. So hopefully we can work this out one way or another. This whole project, you're going to need these babies right here. Okay, so now you got these squares. Like I said, if they are not 1.5 by 1.5 inch squares, that's cool. But they need to be neat and tidy, and you need to have 30 at least. My grid has 36, the way I designed it. So whatever your grid is, it's got to have at least 30. To make this look super tight, you're going to want to go in and trace over the lines with the Sharpie. So I line up my ruler, you know, put it right there on the edge and trace it. Now, you don't have to do this part, or you could wait until your whole project's done and do it at the end. But I think it makes it look nice. Anywho, so we're going to do that part. And I'm going to do that off camera, and then I'm going to come back. Okay, so now my grid's traced with black. The rest of this is really, really easy peasy. You're just going to start with one little square and do a doodle in each square, a different one in each square. One of my favorite doodles of all time that I did when I was a kid and still do today is this one. I call it the brain. If you have a doodle that you always tend to do, go for it first. Kind of get you started. I really don't want to see anything that I can recognize necessarily. Like maybe don't draw kitty cat pictures in here or anything that actually looks like a real thing. Sometimes the things you draw might look like starbursts or a little bit like flowers. But we're not actually drawing pictures here. We're just warming up your creative brain by drawing lines, just lines. And they should be a little meditative in terms of you'll feel kind of that you're getting into a zone when you start doing it. I actually find that it's difficult for me to talk sometimes when I'm drawing. And that's a good thing. Because when you're drawing, you're actually using a different part of your brain anyway. So here, I am going to switch to my bigger Sharpie for like fill-ins, which is why don't let anyone else use your Sharpies. because they always end up wearing down the tip on especially these regular fine point Sharpies. They come with a really nice sharp tip, but if other people start using them, especially little kids, I've got 2 little kids and I'm sure they're gonna bust into these videos many times. They push too hard and and look, speak of my kids.
I got to share a surprise for you.
Okay, come here, honey. So anyway, I'm gonna keep coloring while she shows me something. Let me see.
Close your eyes. Okay, you can look.
Oh, that's so good. Look, let me show the video, okay? The video's right here. Look. This is my 5-year-old. She just
put it on the back.
Showed me that she made this.
Back.
Show the back. Oh, is that for love, honey? That's a really good job, baby.
I made a family.
And honestly, that's not unlike what we're going to be
doing. They
doing.
also have a baby alien. See the baby alien?
Wait, are they an alien family or did they like adopt an alien?
They adopt
it's
a
okay,
baby
babe.
alien.
They did.
Yeah, and it never grows up.
So it stays a baby like its whole life?
Yeah.
That sounds cool. All right, give me a
And
kiss.
it can also talk.
I need you to go back downstairs, okay? You know, so you can see this will go faster than you think. As you keep going and going, you're going to fill it up really quickly. Go ahead and use those resources that I shared with you for ideas. You can just copy those, literally copy those if you want, or you can start with those and change them up, whatever you feel like. You'll see once you get going, the last few you're gonna feel like you have no ideas left. So yeah, don't feel bad about using or copying directly from the resources. And you will be using this piece of paper basically as your own resource when you start the final project. Okay, so have fun. Okay, so after a lot of doodling, I did finish my grid. This has 36 squares on it. I'd like yours to have 30 or more, and it could be squares or rectangles. Things I found while doing this is that indeed when you do something, you can't turn back, right? Because it's all marker. I hate this one. I wish I could just like, you know, cut it out. But anyway, I found that a lot of them that I did and then I messed it up, I was able to just kind of fake it. And, you know, sort of change course or even just fill it in black and then do something else. But anywho, you're going to hopefully use a lot of these patterns on your final piece because it is a good idea to try out the pattern before you put it on your final piece. So anyway, finished project, and I hope you have fun doing yours.